briefing His Excellency's way of regularly updating the media of the happenings here at the Executive Mansion and the working of the presidency. His Excellency President Walker has continued his work, working for the Liberian people, continuing his business, continuing the workings of the country. This week, we've had several meetings, different people, different segments and sectors of our country. And as we speak, he's also currently meeting with other partners in relation to making Liberia a better place. And I can tell all of you that there are lots of good news coming up in the coming days, in the coming weeks, all in the interest of making Liberia a better place and easing the hardship in our country, in all of the different sectors, in all of the key sectors, for example, agriculture, roads, and I mean everything that culminates into the arrest agenda. For today, the other meetings that he had, I would like to highlight two, and one of was this week he had a very good and fruitful meeting with the full bench of the Honorable Supreme Court. That meeting talked a lot about coordination in the interest of issues surrounding the rule of law, but also, as you know, the Constitution provides the three branches, the separation of power, but also it speaks clearly to the coordination. That is from which our president had a meeting with members of the Supreme Court, particularly the full bench, Justice Siane Yo, her Honor Justice Siane Yo and her team here this week to hold a very important meeting. That meeting talked again of collaboration, coordination to ensure that the rule of law and things are upheld. The other important meeting, as all of you may be aware, the a lot has happened during the course of the week, particularly in our education sector. And I said this to lead of the issues relating to the University of Liberia. As you know, there has been a number of different meetings and information coming up with relates to the University of Liberia, and His Excellency has taken seize of the matter. He set up a smaller team to coordinate between the executive mansion and members of the University of Liberia community. This includes the leadership, also the board of trustees and members of the university council, as well as the student community and the different stakeholders of the University of Liberia. So during this course of the week, he's met members of the board. In fact, yesterday he had a very fruitful meeting with members of the board of trustees of the university, particularly talking about the finding of a new leadership, the committee that was set up to ensure that a new team is named and is brought on. And today, they just had a meeting with members of the faculty association. In that meeting, there were lots of issues that members of the faculty talked about, the challenges with the university, and some of the key points that they highlighted over the course of the week. And they talk a lot about the issue of salary, the issue of the system at the university. They also talk about the community and the environment and other campuses. For example, they mentioned the challenges as it relates to Sinjay. They talked about the issue of transportation and a lot. And the president of Liberia is no stranger. As a visitor to the university, he was also aware of some of those challenges, and he was very clear in the meeting that as long as he's president of the Republic of Liberia, he will make sure that the dignity of the University of Liberia is restored. And he made that very clearly, in clear terms, that he will do all in his powers to bring back the dignity the University of Liberia deserves, and to ensure that it is depoliticized. Because as we all know, the highest institution of learning, as members of the university will say, the macrocosm of the larger society, our president Eaton is to make sure that that institution come up and bring back the dignity that it deserves. So we talked about that. And later on this afternoon, or I see it's already 3 p.m., around 4:30 today, he's also going to have a meeting again with the board to come with a resolution on where we are with the interest of ensuring that school reopens and students get back to school. Um, and finally, I'd like to let all of you know in this public manner that at the conclusion of this press briefing, we are going to be publishing the assets of His Excellency Joseph Imam. So the publication will be done as the conclusion of this, and I can let you know now that the President has given us the authorization on today, Friday, June 21st, at this time, to inform the Liberian people his interest of publication is stems from what he stood for from day one on the line of integrity, and is showing that corruption is stemmed, and he will let the Liberian people know what he has. And obviously, his interest is not to acquire anything out of the ordinary. He will be the legacy president that he will be, and his interest is to make sure that Liberia becomes a better place. So thank you again for being here. We look forward to taking your questions and as we move forward. Thank you for coming to this press briefing. And those of you who are listening, we didn't welcome you earlier on. Let me say again, welcome and thank you for joining in. If you're listening via radio, via the internet, other platforms, or even at the executive mansion social media page and other media institutions, social media pages, and even on radio and local communities, we want to say thank you for joining, and we look forward to joining again next Friday. Thank you.
Okay, dear. Thank you for watching. You will be making the first briefing. The first question. Here at the executive mansion, the press secretary of Minor Occupied. Thanks for your comments. Keep watching.
Thank you. My name is Dwayne Johnson. I report for Banana FM. My first question is, you said the president is about to restore dignity at the University of Liberia. The faculty raised an issue about the current president of the University of Liberia. Is the president taking into consideration the changing of the president of the University of Liberia? And you have said that the president will declare his or make his assets public on today. LACC has said a lot of government officials have not declared their assets. What is the president also doing to ensure that these government officials declare their assets in line with LACC laws? Thank you.
Questions? Come.
Thank you, Madam Press Secretary. My name is Joseph Daniels, and I report for OPFM. You mentioned that President Bouaka met with officials of the Supreme Court, naming the Chief Justice. Of recent, the Supreme Court raised an issue about the budget, that they were rejecting the budget because of it being slashed. So did the meeting also cover the issue about the budget? If so, how was that discussed and what resolution has been formed as it relates to the budget of the judiciary, which was slashed, and later the judiciary said they were rejecting that? And my next question, you talk about the UL will be depoliticized. I want to understand how. Will the president be talking about banning politics at the University of Liberia? Please make that clear. And recently, President Bouaka met with Western Cluster head. And the president has spoken strongly against this company because of the type of mining they were doing and the damage they were doing to the highway from the Freeport to Bombing, talking about the bridges. And he held a meeting. Is it now satisfied with the operations of Western Cluster, or is it that he'll stand by what he said and he wants to see much being done? Thank you very much.
More questions? Joseph Daniels there. Okay, asking questions.
Thank you so much, Madam Press Secretary. My name is Moses Bakola and I report for the University of Liberia. So just a follow-up to some of the questions my colleagues asked. When in a meeting with the Faculty and Staff Association, what were some of the outcomes? I mean, what was reached? Because at this point, it's about finding solution and not making promises. So we want to know what decision was reached, what promise was made to them if there's any by the president. Also, will you just speak to this? There's a report that that Sabo George, who was appointed at the Ministry of Defense as Assistant Minister for Press and Public Affairs. There's a report that says that he was confirmed, but the president sees it otherwise and is planning on revoking his nomination. Will you speak to that? Thank you.
Question.
So did you mean the president have revoked his nomination or
That the president is not satisfied and he has asked that his nomination be revoked, despite he being confirmed by the Senate.
Thank you very much for those questions. I will start with the question from Luke about Summer George. As you know, the latest information is that the president did appoint and re-announced Mr. George as the Assistant Minister for Public Affairs at the Ministry of National Defense. Okay, apologies, the mic was a little. Yes, so what I can inform you is that the president, once there is a new information whether his nomination was revoked, he will inform the public. As of yet, we have not, the president has not made that decision. It has not reached our desk. And once it gets to us, then we will be informing the public as to the action along those lines. On the issue of what exactly has been reached by the Power Party Association, along with the president, like I said, the president has had several meetings. He met yesterday. He's going to also have a meeting this afternoon, later today, so that a decision will come out of those engagements. Each of those, one of the issues that, like I mentioned, the faculty talked a lot about many things: the condition of the university, salary, the disparity in salary and the different words and whatnot, but also of their not being happy about the leadership of the university, and they've talked to the president about that. He's going to be making a decision as to the next step, but before making such a decision, there have been a wide range of consultation that he has currently embarked on, and those consultations continue this morning and it's going to continue up to this evening. Hopefully, in the soonest possible time, we will have information as to the outcomes of those, especially in the interest of the resumption of classes. On the issue of whether the president is satisfied with the operation of Western Cluster, we did mention here last week that the president did meet with Western Cluster, and there were clear terms of what the discussions were, particularly that the president is requesting Western Cluster and all concessionaires to live up to the Mineral Development Agreement, and he has also gone ahead to request a review of all the different concessionaires. That's something he's going to do, and that's something his team is really working very hard on. And he's not satisfied with the workings of Western Cluster at the moment. However, they are committed, they recommitted to implementing the MDA and fixing the road, for example, some of the things that were agreed upon in the Mineral Development Agreement, and finding means in which they can utilize our roads that will be in a safer way for the people. And the team very clear on that as to the fact that Western Cluster and all other concessionaires are able to live up to the Mineral Development Agreement. On the question of reducing the political exuberance at the level of the University of Liberia, particularly speaking of the political nature, The president's goal is, and his vision behind all of our educational institutions and initiatives, is to make sure the institution really represent what they stand for, what the charters call for, all those institutions, and particularly in this case, the University of Liberia. That's why he's having a wide range of consultation and bringing on board everyone so that they can provide their own part inside of it. And the reason, I think what we learned before is that politics, student politics was put on, there was some way in which the university and their team went to ensure that it's more meaningful and not too many political experience around the University of Liberia. But the president's intent is to make sure that the school is up to standards, it represents what a University of Liberia should represent, talking about the environment, talking about the system, talking about putting in place people with the requisite credentials and information who are able to run the university for and from an academic and best practices, that he intended that the university would be the way it used to be. People who went to the university say back then, the University of Liberia was one of the best in the sub-region. And the goal is to get back to that status or even beyond so that the University of Liberia can be the place of learning, can be the place of molding the generation of the next Liberian leaders. On the issue of budget, there are several things that the Supreme Court and His Excellency talked about, and they also talked about the challenges and the issue related to their budget. And the president did speak to them about all the different situations and challenges, and their committee have informed the government that they're giving up to July 31st to public officials to be able to declare their assets, and that is the information. And everyone, the president again, is regularly reminding his cabinet ministers, and the goal is to ensure their compliance so that everyone lives up to the timeline that have been provided. The first question was around challenging of the president. I didn't.
About
Yes. Yes.
the U.S. president.
Or whether it's going to change the president. Again, I can say at this time, there have been a wide range of consultation that's ongoing. I did mention that there was a meeting held earlier, and there's going to be another meeting later. And all of them, all those meetings, all those engagements, all those consultations are in the interest of bringing the University of Liberia situation under control, and that school resumes, and that students get back to school, and those who are supposed to graduate soon will be able to graduate. So that is what it is at the moment. If any outcome is announced after this upcoming meeting, I will again inform all of you. So that's the information in relation to that. We'll take any other question and then we.
The question on the Supreme Court justices relating to their budget.
No, I talk about it. I talk about the Supreme Court budget. I said the president talked, and the president members of the bench spoke a lot on many things, including the issue of the budget. And the president committed to them that they will work amicably to resolve any issue in relation to that. Yes, so in terms of working together.
So, other questions. All right, folks, thank you so much for joining Sky Television Live.
The work of the Supreme Network. About a month plus now, the task force that was constituted by the president in terms of the asset recovery team. It has been a month plus now. That task force has been a bit dormant, and it has raised concern in public. Where are we now in terms of the status of that task force? And also, about 2 months ago, the president constituted an investigative team surrounding the incident in Kinjor, Grand Kema County, where 1 or 2 persons' lives were lost. We are here to receive the outcome of that investigation as a result of that incident in Kinjor. Is there any report that will be given to the president as a result of the incident? Thank you.
Uh, Madam PBS and Juraisi Joe, a report for Spoon. And, to add up to Sylvester question, uh, the president gave the team that was investigating the LDA case. So how far now? Because we have passed 2 weeks and we have not heard anything related to that.
Thank you, Moses again from Loops Radio. So yesterday, Councillor, a release came out that Councillor Jonathan Massaquoi was appointed to the as director of later, or he has a specific mandate that the president has given him. Thank you.
Okay, good afternoon, Madam PBS. My name is Master Talu, and I report for ELBC Radio. So I have like two questions. The one has to do with how far are we now with the committee the president set up? Is it a committee? Yeah, the investigating committee the president set up to probe into the army issue, the army wives issue. Because since then we've not gotten any information. The second one has to do with from the inception of the government, the president mandated, I think GSC is not, I think it is GSC, that they should conduct an audit from the EPS, the central bank, and another entity. And within 90 days, they should report to him. How far is that mandate, and has that GSC reported to the president?
Thank you. You made a great pronouncement today about the president publishing answer. I think a lot of almost every journalist here has asked that question. It's a good thing, and we hope to see that online today. I would like to ask this also. You are an official of government. Have you declared asset now? The last time I asked you, you said no. And will you publish in as your boss is doing?
Any more questions, please?
Another question to Madam PBS. Uh, Last week, press briefing, we did ask about the person of the deputy PBS, and we are here today again, and we have not seen the person of the deputy PBS. Can you tell us what's happening?
Thank you. Any more questions? No, thank you all very much for those questions. In terms of the task force on the access recovery and property retrievers, yes, the access recovery team, in fact, I had a conversation with the chairperson very recently, and he assured us that they're working, and they're working behind the scene. They have received a lot of information, and they tend to, engage and do a lot of different work. And sometimes these investigations and these processes they happen behind camera, and it's important to protect because some of them have some security implications, and they've assured us that they are working very hard to achieve their goal. I know they have had some issues relating to the court, with the Supreme Court, on having them on a certain situation, but that one is also being worked on as well. And the team there, they're very committed in working on what they were asked to do by the president. On the issue of Kinjob, I've been informed that the Ministry of Justice, Labor, and others who were involved with the investigation, they've recently finalized the report. Once I get the declassified one from His Excellency and I get briefing on it, I will inform all of you as to the recommendation and what next step the government is taking or the president is taking along this line. On the issue of the LDA case, again, it's almost similar to the issue of, issue of surrounding security and other matters. That is still being investigated. And as soon as we have additional information, we will inform all of you. Yes, LTA is a very active situation, and the president did put in additional people or an acting team, especially the officer in charge, to be able to steer the affairs while the investigation is ongoing. So yes, the investigation is ongoing. In terms of getting update as to the other things that have happened, I'm sure you've been following this week. The president received resignation letters from two members of the suspended LTA team, the LTA, that is the Bureau Telecommunication Authority team, and those resignation came in while at the same time the investigation is continuing. The majority of those early investigations, they're at their concluding stages. Some have been concluded, and their review happening in the back end. Once the information and outcomes are declassified, we will be informing all of you. As it relates to Mr. Jonathan Massaquoi, sorry, Councillor Jonathan Massaquoi, I should know this. Councillor Jonathan was appointed by His Excellency as the Executive Director of the Office of War and Economic Crime Report. And as you know, you can recall the President did sign the executive order on the War Crimes Court a while ago, and within that EO, you have the terms of reference for what the office will be and what the executive director or whoever is in charge, the team that will be in charge of that office. Many inquiries from journalists around Councilor Massaquoi and whether that's the court. Again, like I mentioned to a couple of journalists, is that Councilor Massaquoi is the executive director of the Office of War Crimes Court. He's not the court, and the office is going to be in charge of ensuring and doing all of the different work around the establishment and making recommendations. So we'll also encourage all of you again to follow through on those works. On the issue of the army wives, I mean, I thought we've talked about this a while back in several other press briefings as to where we are. Some of the issues have been resolved. Some of the issues that the army wives talked about was on education. The children were being asked to pay tuition for the Linda Thomas Greenfield School that was in the barracks, and the president have removed the fees, tuition, and made the school free. And they also complained about electricity at the barracks, and the electricity has been restored. They worked with LEC, and they have a transformer there, and the electricity was restored a while back. And also one of the other issues that they also talked about was the issue of housing. And I did inform all of you here that that is being worked on. As you know, construction takes time, and right now they've reviewed some specifications on what's going to happen and has been worked. Those things are active, things that are ongoing. So for the larger part is that the issues that the women raised during those protest actions, those issues, if not 60%, but close to, or not 80%, but we're getting there to be able to resolve those issues. The issue of the CBL and GAC audit, I can announce here that there have been a number of audits that have happened, and those audit reports, some have been submitted, and the team is reviewing that. And the president was also briefed on some, and I can also here announce that there are more public institutions that have requested the General Auditing Commission to commission audits of their different institutions, something that happened before. Even here at the Executive Mansion, for example, we've also asked the GAC to audit the Executive Mansion. And for the first time in many years, or may I say forever, that the Executive Mansion or the Ministry of State for Presidential Affairs, or the Ministry of State have requested and currently has an internal audit team for the first time to ensure that all form of checks and balances are in place. So the internal audit team here has been very vigilant, working hard to make sure that things work easily. In terms of assets declaration, it's announced here again more than once, more than twice, more than three times that the Liberia Anti-Corruption Commission has given up to July 31st as the deadline for public officials to declare their assets. And as at that time, public officials will have declared their assets, and then those who haven't, then there will be other actions, I'm sure. But for now, that is the deadline, and we look forward to public officials. Personally, we also have up to that. In fact, I've concluded on all of the different things that should be happening. My personal assets documentation is with my lawyer because there's supposed to be a probating or of it. So once it's completed, we'll be submitting it into that. As to whether we will make it public, when we get to that bridge, we'll cross it. But thank you all. It is one thing that is not proposed at this moment. But again, we'll see what we can do at that time. But again, thank you for coming. We look forward to your regular coming to the regular press briefing so you can inform the Liberian people as to the workings of the office of His Excellency President Joseph Boakai, President of the Republic of Liberia. Have a wonderful Friday, and sorry for the rain season. Have a wonderful Friday.
Kula Fofana there, Presidential Press Secretary, addressing members of the press here in the
All right, folks. Thank you so much for joining us. Yeah, at the Executive Mansion. Thank you so much for joining us here at the Executive Mansion. That was Kola Bona Fofana, Presidential Press Secretary, Executive Mansion, Republic of Liberia. Yeah, thank you so much for watching Sky Television Live. My name is Yubeli Masale here at the Executive Mansion. Bye-bye for now. Sorry for the broadcast. Sometimes equipment give you some problems and what have you. So the stuff have to be upside down for some time, and later on I have to fight hard to get it back to the rightful position. So sorry for that, and thank you for watching Sky Television. You've been in Masala is my name. Thank you. Bye bye for now.
Masale.
Look at